Hello, Ivy. I hope you're well, and I look forward to seeing you at school on um, Monday. I believe your mum's staying with you, which is wonderful news. Um, Ivy, I've got you been looking at your reading logs. I'd like to give you some feedback. I'd like you to do some things for me, and I want you to learn something from this. First thing I want you to do is you need to complete this form. So, what I want you to do is for every reading log, you need a date. You need a title for the reading log. So, for example, in reading log 1, the highway to happiness is your title, and that would go here. And you might want to reduce the size, of course. And I would like you to put in the author. Now, if there's no author, you can leave that blank. Text type. Well, I'm not sure if this one is one that you read in a book from me, in which case it was a text type, it was a magazine article. I'm not sure. You need to write it in there. You also need to have the date. So here you should be having that, the title, the author, the text type. And you need to do this for each one because it's part of the criteria. And if you don't do it, you don't achieve. Okay, so if you could do that, please, for each of your logs. So your date is here. I can see it there, but just put your date here for me as well, okay? So that's, if you can go back and do that for your logs, I'd really appreciate that. So that needs to be complete. Now, the first one is, I'm assuming that this is the magazine, the article that I gave you. I don't know though, so you need to clarify that. And I think that you've managed, you really responded to that, and I quite liked what you had to say with regards to this. And I think you supported your ideas with information from the text. Um, in this one, you did something similar, and you've got the link here to your this is what you read, but you need to, you may have an author here. Let's just have a look if you haven't had an author. If we look down the bottom here, do we have a date or anything? No. Okay, so you're just going to need to put for title, this is the title, and it's From Life. Okay, and the oh, here you go, there's your author by Kelly Scott. So can you put Kelly Scott, please, as your author? And I thought that you did a fairly good um, response here. You certainly thought about it. You said what you agreed with. You could do much better if you spent more time talking about actual things that they said in the text and related to your experience. And you've done a lot of examples here of your own. Here you've got her comment, so that's good. Yeah. So what I'm going to talk to you about is this one. Right. So I told you, you've got some really good points about this book, Ivy. You honestly have, but it's jumbled and muddled. And because you're not following structure, it makes it really hard for the reader to understand what you mean. So I've highlighted this in pink, first of all, because I think a lot of this is not your own words. And it's a brief overview, which is really good. And we always want a brief overview. But if it's not in your own words, we can't count it. So you need to go back and make sure that everything there you've put in your own words, even if it doesn't sound right. I want to hear what you've got to say. All right. Now, your opinion. Now, you've got quite a few opinions here. Um, the first one is you could have said, my opinion was, I was very interested in the way the book discusses the butterfly effect or shows the butterfly effect. Hannah Baker refers to this when she says, okay, then you're going to say, in this book, you can see how things happened in the butterfly effect. So you then explain what's happening for the butterfly effect, but then you don't kind of explain what's the end of it. So the butterfly effect, one thing affects the other, but what happens in the end? You don't talk about that. So you could do that, and that would improve it. Okay, so you've got another opinion here. I think your opinion would be, I think that Hannah committed suicide because she was too kind. Then you would go on and explain why was she too kind. She felt other people's pain too much. Now, kindness and isolation and loneliness are two different ideas. So where you've got isolation and loneliness here, that's not relevant. Okay? None of that's relevant. And neither is any of this relevant to being kind. So I would be expecting you to say she's too kind and she feels she feels things too deeply. Explain why she's too kind and how she experiences things too deeply. Okay? And then you could finish saying she saw through it, so she wanted to start again. Your final sentence here is fine. But all this business about loneliness is not relevant to that opinion. Now, you could have another opinion. Your opinion is that, in my opinion, loneliness is not scary. People are always lonely. It's impossible to change a state because of someone. And then you could talk about the text. Explain. In the text, Hannah feels desperately lonely. How do we see her loneliness? When do we see her loneliness? What do you think about how she was lonely? Next, that's the next one. Then you could have another opinion. I agree with the idea that it's love that's going to take us out of the darkness. Clay said this when he said, and then say what he said. In my opinion, yes, we do need to live and be kind to others. What did you say here? How would that affect? How could love have changed what happened for Hannah? So what you're doing, Ivy, is you're basically giving me about 4 or 5 different opinions and really not developing them enough and following the structure. So if you'd followed that structure, you could have almost written an essay because each of your opinions had a lot of things you could say about it. You could give lots of examples and then relate it to your experience. So, to be honest, I think if you change the beginning here, you may eke through and achieve for this. But I would like to see you spend a bit of time and have more structure in your writing. Well done for doing this, getting through the book. I really admire you for that. It's not easy reading a book in English, and I think the effort you put into doing that was just fantastic. So well done, and well done for having done 3, Ivy. So my advice to you is to fill in the form I told you about. Go back and work on this 13 reasons why, because I think you can make it better.